KECOBO wangetuuliza, mlipeana leseni lakini tunaona kuna shida. Lakini ile tunapinga ni wazo kwamba tunaweza peana leseni na hiyo leseni hiwe iko na tashushu. Kwa maana itafanya watu wengine waulize swali, bona tulipe kama tutapeleka kotini kama yule. So to avoid that confusion, we are telling KECOBO, keep off, you are not a CMO. If there is an issue, do it in the boardrooms. Call us and we are available. But do not issue statements that cast aspersions on the credibility of the licenses issued by CMOs. The government is not a CMO. KECOBO is not a CMO. Broadcasters are not CMOs. So we are advising all those other people to keep off. The CMOs in Kenya is Music Corporate Society of Kenya, Kenya Association of Music Producers, and PRISK, probably the KOPIKEN and others. But the mother of them all, is Music Corporate Society of Kenya, which I represent. And as far as I'm concerned, when we issue a license, it is valid. If there's a conversation, that should be mitigated in an administrative manner, in a peaceful, amicable way, not for people to issue statements, randomly, without even consulting us. CMOs, kama swala ambalo limereisiwa na Sauti Sol, ni swala la mawasiliano tu. Swala ndogo sana, lakini wakati KECOBO issue statement, ilianza kuonyesha kana kwamba tunatoa leseni ambazo sio halali ama tuelewe tunachofanya, na hiyo ni kuweka tashwishi kuhusiana na maadili yetu. Hatuwezi kubali. I'm asking is, how can the government claim that they want music to benefit artists, that they want Sauti Sol and others to make money, when you have introduced a system that crashes the collection level? Because you can't talk about distribution without talking about collection. So the conversation must begin with collections, must begin with people paying for licenses. And that's why in this issue of Raila Odinga presidential campaign, we actually should give him credit, because he's the only presidential candidate who has complied. You're not looking at the bigger picture, you're looking at a sideshow by Sauti Sol, which I believe is a sideshow, and then KECOBO, so that they look like they are credible, and throwing CMOs under the bus in the guise of synchronization and what do I call them? Semantics, if you wish. Semantics. Collection of royalties is done by CMOs. But KECOBO interfered with the operations, introduced that. As a result, the collections dropped by 90%. In 2016, this office used to have a CEO called Maurice Okoth. They were collecting almost 650 million. Our officers across the country, employees of MCSK, were collecting almost 650 million and distributing. That's when Sauti Sol were getting a lot of money, and other musicians. Okay? KECOBO, in order to benefit those cartels, came up in 2018, 2019 with new tariffs and new regulations that introduced another licensing regime called Liberty and some other funny systems. And say, in order to promote transparency, we introduce a self-licensing technology. Where did you see in Kenya, in an African country, that abuse of a music will go and license themselves and pay in this day and age? Is that what happens in other sectors? They introduced that thing that the collections dropped by almost 90%. So right now we have nothing to pay because of the same nonsense that they're talking about. And that's why it's good to expose these things. How does it benefit the government when collections drop by 90%? How can you introduce a system called Liberty at a self-license, by the way, which is not even true? The work of KECOBO is not to interfere with operational issues of CMOs. The work of KECOBO, in fact, should be to facilitate CMOs to become more efficient. Kazi yao ni kutuwezesha. Kazi yao ni kuhakikisha tuna sheria. Kazi yao ni kuhakikisha tuna utaratibu na tuna nguvu za kisheria kufanya kazi inavyopaswa. Lakini wao wanataka kuingilia, wamekuwa kama CMO ingine, na wanaingilia kwa maana wao ndio wamelicense cartels zingine huko nje ambazo zinaokota kinyume na sheria. Sheria iko wazi kwamba royalties zinaokotwa na licensed CMOs, na kwamba KECOBO sio CMO. KECOBO ni regulator, haitakiwi hata kuzungumzia swala hili, na tunaudhika kwamba wamezungumza bila hata kutushauri, hata watu hawakutuuliza. Tulipeana leseni hadharani. I say the reason I'm in this conversation is because it casts doubts on the credibility of the license you are issuing and the validity thereof. And I'm saying to that extent, my morality cannot allow me to play those kind of politics. We have to clarify. A client applied for a license to us, we issued the license. If you have any other issue, please come to us. Been given credence by KECOBO, who are used to running roughshods on CMOs, creating confusion so that they can weaken the CMOs to benefit cartels whom they have licensed. As a CMO, we are licensed by the government, and the tariffs are determined and gazetted by the government through public participation. I have said here, the blame is squarely on Kenya Corporate Board, who are issuing confusing statements, who refused, and they have been sitting on the proposed new tariffs. If they had gazetted the new tariffs, Sauti Sol probably would be okay, because the license is attracting more. And the question at the moment should be, how much is owed to them if they wanted to be paid more? How do they determine? Because they have assigned their rights to us, and they cannot collect directly. The corporate law is very clear that royalties are paid through registered CMOs, because we gave a proposal through public participation for them to gazette new tariffs that would have been higher. We would probably have charged the Raila Odinga campaign $1 million or $2 million, but they refused to gazette. As a CMO, we cannot gazette. So we are using the gazetted tariffs, and they're the ones who have been fighting and bringing them down. Okay? They're the ones who have been crippling the CMOs and creating all this confusion. Kuajiriwa hapa mwezi uliopita, niliandika barua nzuri sana kwa CGA. Kama Mkenya, you know, a decent Kenyan. I told them I've just been appointed third day in my office. I've just been appointed and given the role of KECOBO. I would like to pay a courtesy go and talk to you. When I visited, they called me and they did not even respond to the letter. When I went to the office, CGA ran away from the meeting. I write to my counterpart. He feels he's a bigger guy because he's in government. I've been in government for donkey years. But they try to reach out. You know, they don't bother. The idea is to kill CMOs. You don't get what I've told you, Majibu. These guys are out to kill CMOs. Even their statement was just to spite CMOs because we issued a license. The whole idea was not about synchronization. Those are technical issues we can sort out. The idea was to cast aspersions on our licenses. They wrote letters even to the Inspector General of Police saying that we don't have licenses. Yet we obtained court orders when they wanted to deregister us, and the court ruled that KECOBO has no powers to deregister a private company. Okay? And we're in court. So when we issue a license and we start licensing political campaign teams, now they want to make it look like it's not credible. The same thing they did with the other licenses. We will not allow them. We will not allow them. Work for KECOBO for 7 years. Now I'm here. The shoe can be on the other foot. This is how life is. So what we are telling them, let us operate with standards that apply across. It's integrity. It cannot be integrity just for the CMO. It has to be integrity also for the government and for KECOBO. By the way, we don't even need a license from them. Technically speaking, if members have assigned their deeds to us, transferred their rights to us, why do I need to be licensed? If I give you the right to collect rent for my building, why do you need another license for men to collect? Si nyumba ni yangu na nimelipa mambo ile ingine na nimekupatia na tumesign. That's a technical issue that is in court. I hope it will be resolved, because if that happens, the 15,000 members that we represent will be collecting directly for them. We obviously want to uphold integrity. We want to be regulated. We don't want to collect hundreds of millions and pay peanuts. There are issues of integrity and efficient of also our operations. But we are not crooks. We are Kenyans trusted by our members with the authority and the power to represent them, to negotiate royalties on their behalf, to collect on their behalf. So KECOBO cannot cast doubts on our credibility. If they have an idea, they should come to us and talk to us as Kenyans who are reasonable. Yeah. You know, I wish we can reach a level where we are decent enough as citizens to say, Mutua uko na makosa na nikubali, na KECOBO iko na makosa wakubali. But in a situation where the right is called wrong and wrong is called right, there must be someone who calls that nonsense out, and it's me. That's why they call me the moral cop. Yeah, hatuwezi kubali Mtu anakaa kule. Have you heard the parable of the pot calling the kettle black? That is the case of KECOBO and us. We are not angels. We might have our own challenges. But this is a case of the pot calling the kettle black. Our issue is to say, if we continue to blame CMOs, when they're being crippled every day through ridiculous statements like what was issued yesterday, we will never solve this industry. It's not my industry. It's the musicians who suffer.